Hey guys, I'm Diego. I play Nords for Conquest, and I'm gonna do a unscripted rundown of my experience at Adepticon doing the Conquest Last Argument 2,000 point 6-game tournament. What I think is currently the largest Conquest tournament to date. An amazing 38 people out of 40 showed up for the event, and if any of you are familiar with the tournament scene in various games, to get a basically like 99, 98% rate of people showing up to a game is amazing. It was great. First, I'm going to go over my list. Here we have my Lords of the Snow. I have a Conager that has the dragon aspect, Raven Messengers, which is a banner that projects the character stand's resolve out to 12 inches, and he was key to many of my victories during this game, and Tactical 1. In my local meta, which is, I think, one of the most competitive metas on the planet, period, for this game, many of my opponents started taking characters with Quicksilver, and Quicksilver is a mechanic that allows character stand with Quicksilver to attack first in duels. So what happens is that if I dump 900 points into my Conager to make it the double dueling death dealer that we all know it can be, he just gets killed by an OD character with Quicksilver. So since that exists in my meta, I wanted to mitigate any issues I would have by just not making my characters dueling characters. That is one of the grand secrets of war games, is that what you want to do is mitigate risk and mitigate randomness, and to try to have as much of the game and its rules under your control. So if I take a character that is a dueling master, and let's say I play 5 different opponents in my meta in a local tournament, and 1 or 2 of them have a character with Quicksilver, that right there stops my stand, my massive dueling Conager in it, from going to that side of the board. It already limits what I can do tactically. You may say, but a giant dueling Conager can go ahead and bully other armies. That's true. But I want consistency. I don't want risk in my games. I'm not a risk-taking person. I would rather have my Conager hold a banner, and the banner works all 6 games, all the time. Wherever I put him, I know that the banner is going to be effective. And I'm going to explain how effective the banner is. His warband has the 4 bow chosen stands, 1 ice Jotnar, 4 bow chosen stands, and 3 bow chosen stands. Okay. Now, the reason why I take a shooting skewed list, we're going to talk about the dislike of ranged that Parabellum and some Vanguards have about, and many players have about range later on in the video. I'll rant about that a little later. The main reason why I take bow chosen is because of my local meta. There are a lot of Dweg, and Dweg have high defense, high resolve, and Nords have issues with Dweg because Dweg also come with, well, guess what? High offense. That is an army that pretty much does everything. It can be fast. It's deadly, it's defensive, it has high resolve, which I have no issue with. This is not a knock on Dweg players, okay? As a matter of fact, I've told my local Dweg players many times that if the game were to be rebalanced, a good company needs to stop making people feel bad for buying models, which is what they're going to do to all my ranged models, and instead make people feel good about buying models. One thing I've seen drive people out of games is that they spend $400 on models, and then they get nerfed. I mean, it's happened with my Tyranids in 40k and other game systems where I've enjoyed a strong list that I have the option to make weaker when fighting non-competitive opponents. But if you have a weaker list, you just struggle against even casual games. But that's a discussion for another time. My point is, I take bow chosen because Dweg were stomping a mud hole in my booty in my local meta. I also have OD, Old Dominion, that they don't take resolve checks. So ranged is a way to mitigate. I mean, also resolve changed. OD don't care about resolve, and Dweg typically don't care about resolve because of their high defensive stats, right? As a Nord player with a glass cannon army with, evasion 2, evasion 1, defense 2, maybe defense 3, right? Your glass cannon army. Anything looks at your army, you're dead. Okay, so when I fight against Dweg at range, they just magic me to death, and up close, they melee me to death, right? I have cleave, they ignore cleave. I mean, Dweg is not a pleasant army to play against if you're Nord, and neither are OD, okay? Because Nord want to run in there and do a lot of damage, but OD, they don't do resolves. Dweg has magic burning you coming in. When you go in, Nords is kind of like hitting like wet tissue, especially since trolls got nerfed for some reason. I guess the reasoning was to take Ogres. Now trolls aren't taken at all. Before I took trolls and Ogres, but now I just take Ogres. I don't even take trolls. They're just trash. Either way, I take Bochosen to mitigate risk, to mitigate the rules. So Dweg are always going to pass their resolve against me. Guess what? Don't even bother with resolve. I'm just going to do volley. OD doesn't take resolve. Don't care about resolve. I'm just going to do volley. High armor regiments. Most of my cleave is kind of worthless against these armies and against, like I say, OD, which is prevalent in my meta. They don't take more resolve checks after I do melee damage, so who cares? My list is designed for my local meta. Bochosen, Bochosen, Bochosen. The range mitigates so many rules in the game that hurts Nords. That doesn't really impact some other armies. Defense. Nords have an issue with defense. And Bochosens with their ones mitigates defense. Now that city-states are kind of out in the meta, Nords are going to be a 5-1 army because, well, as long as range is not touched here. Once range gets nerfed, Nords, you can just chuck them in the trash. They're not going to matter anymore. For now, Nords will be like a 5-1 army, 4-1 army, because every time they come across their direct counter city-states, we're going to lose, which is fine. I'm okay with armies countering each other. The issue is, on a side note, I had to work to learn my counter. Like, it took me 6 months of playing with Nords and getting my butt handed to me by Dweg and OD players to finally figure out how to beat them. So now in my local meta, I'm the direct counter to those armies. And when I play, which is fine, the players may not like it, but oh well, it's a war game. It happens, right? If you want perfect symmetry without player skill, then you're going to play chess without people. Now I come across city-states. City-states are my direct counter. That's perfectly fine. I don't mind that. That's why I take range. I guess I went into my rant about range anyway. Maybe it mitigates the length of my rant later on. I have the list I do because of how some armies function. At this event, there were maybe 3 ranged armies, like ranged focus armies, and even just 2 of them. Me and Carl's VCI list have ranged focus. If I pronounce his name correctly, Ramus over here. He has a Nord army that has 2 giant regiments of Bochosen. I think it's still less than half the cost of his army, so it's not ranged focus. I know when people look at these lists based on their feelings and not objectivity, they're going to say, oh, well, Dweg has 2 characters, it's ranged focus, or that Nord list has 2 Bochosen regiments, it's range focus. No, it's not. He has blocks of melee. Most of his points are into melee. Only 2 lists that I was aware of out of 38 were ranged focused. This mystique that range is taking over the tournaments, that range is everywhere. No, it's not. Doesn't really exist. I am quite literally the only Nord player I know on the planet that runs this list. Because first of all, the game is kind of new, so most people don't own the models. I think I have 15 stands of Stalkers and 20 stands of Bochosen because I leaned hard into the range due to my local meta. I just want to dispel anyone's myths here. You can go ahead and check all the lists that people made available, which I had an issue with in the tournament. Some people didn't submit lists, which is a requirement for the tournament. I thought they maybe should have docked points or something because, I spend $1,000 to go to a tournament. I follow all the rules. Then other people don't get penalized. That just tells me with Parabellum and their tournaments, next time I go to a tournament, I'm just not going to follow some of the rules because why go through that extra heartache to do so? Why spend the 5 minutes to print a list or the 3 seconds to copy a list onto Longshanks? That's another gripe I have about tournaments. I've been going to tournaments for war games for almost 20 years, on and off, not consistently. People not following the rules and then the judges just letting them do so is it irks me. It's like, playing baseball or football, but the referees just let the other player break the other team break the rules, but not you. It's just not fair. And it may sound weird to many of you out there, but it's also a little bit of fraud on the end of the tournament organizers that some people, that we all consent to the same rule set, but only some people follow it and some aren't, and they're not punished for it doing so, docked points or something, which is a big problem for tournament events. But I know that Parabellum and its organizers are new. I assume they're new to these sort of things, so hopefully they take all of my advice and use reason to parse out what's best for their values in tournaments and not just react emotionally to what I say. Emotions are not tools of cognition. The only tool that humanity has that they need to come to proper conclusions is reason, facts and reason. But anyway, that's why I took Bochosen, and I am the boogeyman in the meta for the online fear of range. It's just me. Of course, the winner of the tournament had no ranged and directly countered ranged, and he won, also because of his skill, which I'll get into later in the video as well. That's another rant I have for a video about people's conception on army strength in a vacuum online when they just rationalize and debate how armies are weak and strong. They never, doesn't matter, it's 40K, any kind of game system, all YouTube videos, all content creators, never take into account player skill. This list that I made here, it's not like Nords are just overpowered and I woke up and made the list and I win because the list is autopilot. This is not an easy list to use. And only I know that. only I have played this list. I'm going to explain in my games how it's not an easy list to use. From the outside, like when you see someone for the first time driving a NASCAR, winning, first, second, third place with the fastest car in the world, you're like, wow, that car's fast. Never take into account the driver in the seat, right? That's Bo Chosen. Wow. My Warlord's my blooded. Now, my Warlord has a Supremacy that allows me to take 2 regiments from reinforcement automatically per turn, as long as he's on the battlefield. Now, since most of my list are lights, I think I have 1 medium and 1 heavy. You may be asking, Diego, why would you take that Supremacy if everything's going to be on the board? Mitigating risk. Remember, that's the theme for tournaments. That's just the theme for war games or any kind of game, whether it's a sports or Magic the Gathering. You want to mitigate risk. You want to mitigate randomness. You want to have as much of a game under your control as possible. I have been in a tournament at my local area, and remember, my local area is very competitive, where I had a list with 3 medium regiments. I'm not going to get into the details of my regiments, but I wanted my medium regiments to stay in reinforcements as long as possible, so on turn 3 or 4, they can come in from the sides of the battlefield with Bloodlust and charge in, okay? I had 3 games in that tournament, and then games 1 and 3, so 2 of the 3 games. On turn 2, for my 3 mediums, I rolled 2 or less, and I brought all 3 of them in on game 1, and all 3 of them in on game 3 on turn 2, which completely ruined my plans. And that happened once with this list, where I want my regiments out as early as possible, but I would roll the dice to get my Bo Chosens out, 5s and 6s. And it screwed me over against an OD, Old Dominion game, right? Like I literally lost that game because of those rolls. If my guys come out early enough, I don't lose to Old Dominion. But if my regiments come out later, then I will lose to Old Dominion because Old Dominion has a stronger late game. So my blooded is there to cut the randomness and to guarantee that as much as possible is going to be out on the board early. And you may think, what is the reason you want your regiments out on the board early? Scoring, which I'll get to later in the games, right? But that's why I have my blooded. Wow, I just realized this. I think I even mentioned this to a player. My printed lists are 1995 points, and my submitted list is 2000 with prize silver. And I'd mentioned to a player on my printed list why it's 1995 is because I was too lazy to put in prize silver. Apparently, I put in prize silver, didn't even remember I had prize silver, and had an old list. Did my blooded ever charge anything? I don't think so. But still, it's funny that I didn't even know I had prize silver on my tournament list until right now. And then Stalkers, Bo Chosen, Stalkers, Fenrir, Beast Pack. We'll get into all that stuff in the first game because this has been going on a little long. My first opponent is a Mr. Mike Gitone. I'm going to pronounce everyone's names wrong. I don't care. Whatever. Just correct me in the comment down below and then give me a sub, right? He's playing Wadroon. I am not too familiar with the names of regiments and opposing armies. So during my game breakdowns, you might get frustrated. I don't know the names of regiments. I'm not going to sit here and learn all these names for a video. I'm going to learn them as I play the games. Heaven forbid I played a Dweg player, which I didn't. They would just all be regiments of dwarves to me. I have no clue. It's a dragon and a bunch of just dwarves. With some have spears, some have shields. Like, I don't really know. Don't really care about regiment names when I'm stomping them into the ground. No, I actually didn't care about regiment names when they were stomping me into the ground, right? He's got a whole bunch of stuff. Blooded, Raptor Riders. You can look at this list yourself, pause it to have fun. Let's go into the first game. Okay, this is my first game against Wadroon, and I'm gonna call the armies by their army name, not the player names. Okay, it's just how I roll, yo. Game 1 was against Wadroon, and I took pictures, but they're not. I tried doing it at the start of each round, and I'm not gonna have pictures for all the rounds, and not all my games went the full 10 rounds. Many of them went to time. So before I even start, many of the players were new. Many of the players didn't know the rules that well. The early games were more against newer players, and the later games are more against expert players or more skillful players. Part of the reason why these games went to time, either the players were new and were taking a while with their rules, which is fine. Remember, these aren't moral judgments against how long it takes for people to play games. I'm just explaining a fact of reality. The newer players took time with the rules, and then the more experienced players, funny enough, took time with the rules. So I basically spent the last minute explaining why games went to time. It's because everybody took their time. Either they didn't know the rules and they're being careful, or they knew the rules and they were being careful. I'm gonna claim these pictures are certain rounds, and I'm sure if you sleuths out there dissect movement, you're gonna say, oh, Diego, this picture looks like it's round 3, not round 4. It's kind of irrelevant. These are just a generalization of each game. So at the end of round 2, I had brought my Bo Chosen up and my Stalkers up. So right here, I have my Conager, and he has my Raven Messengers. He's in the center of my army, right? The reason to have him in the center of the army is that he projects his 12-inch resolve of 5. He's in a 3-stand regiment, and he's resolve 4, so his resolve becomes a 5. So 12 inches out, which I think actually covers all my regiments at the moment, or maybe not the one here on the left, but he covers basically most of my army. So when I do get into combat, or if people cast spells, or charge me with impacts, my basically resolve 5, I'm a Dweg, or an OD. I just kind of like ignore resolve, right? Which is amazing. The amount of defense a Raven banner gives to Nords for my playstyle is infinitely more important than kitting out my characters for complete and utter melee dominance, because Nords are already good at melee dominance, so I don't need to have a force multiplier of a 500-point conquer to do so. So having a high resolve mitigates a problem with Nords. I now have a 2 evasion that can't be modified and a 5 resolve that, unless you have terror, cannot be modified. It's actually pretty tanky. It's pretty darn good. Is new. And he does the thing that every single new Conquest player does. They take their fast regiments, and because the regiment is fast, gotta go fast, they just slam them forward into your lines, right? And he had this conundrum. Even he knew that. He's like, wow, that's a lot of shooting, but I don't want to keep my guys back. Wrong. So first of all, Conquest is won by points, okay? You need to outscore your opponent. And this is a rationalization a lot of players have. A rationalization is an idea in your mind without any reference to reality. And what people do is, in their mind, they think my army is going to play a certain way without any relational objectivity to how you actually win the game physically, practically, right? Like they have something in their mind, but they don't know practically how to win the game. In their mind, I'm Wadroon. I have fast regiments, gotta go fast. I'm going to slam into your regiments and do things. No, you gotta win the game. You have to score points. What players need to learn to do is keep your dudes back. Not because I'm playing in all range, that's irrelevant. If you have these 3 light, fast regiments and they run into pretty much anything in the game, they're dead. Wadroon players learn that pretty quick. You just hold them back. They just don't do anything for a round. They hold back. And then as more of your regiments come on the board, you create this line of meat that directly counters ranged armies. This is another issue I have. Just people don't take the time to understand the mechanics of the game. Yeah, I'm kind of like mad that everyone's against range when it's simple ways to beat it. You just hang back and you score, which is what the game is anyway. You hang back and you score. You get your units, your mediums, your heavies on the board, then you march forward and you dominate in the last half of the game, right? OD is good at that. Dweg, they're good at that, right? These armies are good at these things. Just because your army is a light army doesn't mean you have to run in early. No, you don't do that. Stop. You bring all your regiments on, form a meat line, then you come forward. Because guess what? A stand of 4 or 5 bow chosen, let's say we're firing into a defense 3 regiment, I kill maybe a stand. There's no resolve checks. People see range and they just immediately fear it. But when you actually get shot by it, you're like, wow, okay, I lost a stand. Ooh, I don't care. The problem is when you only have 2 regiments on the board, I can focus fire all my shooting to these 2 regiments, and then it enforces the strength of a ranged unit. You know why it's enforced? It's because you ran into it. The enemy has great snipers. Well, how do you know that? Well, we keep running our people out in the open they're getting shot in the head. Well, how about you wait in cover until we get artillery or the rest of the military to show up, and then we move up together. What's a sniper going to do? Hit a tank? Yeah, kill some soldiers, but now they're done. Same idea applies here. And I know what some people might be thinking, but that's not fun. Rationalizations versus objectivity. If you want to have fun running your stuff in this game early out to get slaughtered, have fun, you're going to lose the game. Then don't complain that something's overpowered or you lost the game because the game didn't conform to your subjective notion on fun. When you are playing locally with your friends, you can, I'm not going to take this list anymore against my local friends unless we're really playing hardcore, right? You can dumb the lists down to have a thematic, fun game, right? I know that's what Parabellum wants. Parabellum wants their games to be painted, good terrain, thematic, stuff clashing. That's once again a rationalization, but in reality it is a game, which means it has a winner and a loser and it has rules, and it is a disservice when both players are playing in a game and one of them doesn't care about winning. That's actually an insult to the other player, right? We're here for, like, if you sit there and you want to play Monopoly or baseball or any event and your team shows up and the other team is just kind of like, they're just missing balls on purpose, taking a nap on the diamond, or football, they line up and then they just walk instead of, like, rushing the quarterback. They just walk. They don't care. that's a waste of time. Just why are you doing this? Get out of here. Or if you're on the Tour de France and everyone's on their bicycles, but half the pack is just walking, like, no, why are you there? That's not what this competition is about. It's not how you feel it should be. It's what it is. If you want to have fun and play the game your way, that's great, but don't fault the opponent when he stomps you into the ground by playing by the rules. Remember, I'm not talking about cheating. I'm not talking about lying, cheating. I'm talking about playing by the rules, okay? Then don't get mad. So this is a skill issue. It's an education issue. It's an experience issue. Many new players are inexperienced and they want to play the game the way they think it should be played. Actually should be played, okay? He takes his fast regiments and sticks them on the board. This scenario is Forlorn Hope. There's a objective zone here, an objective zone here, and 2 markers here. And the markers are both enemy markers, meaning we can damage either marker. Another reason why I have the build the way I do is as Nords, our late game is complete garbage, trash, right? Do not count on our Blood of the Ironheart to carry the army. It's a trap. Now that you can score on round 2, Nords actually have a chance in winning in this game. I'm being very sarcastic there, but it's easier now. Part of the reason why my list is also ranged, I didn't mention this earlier, it's because I want to be able to shoot these markers on round 2 and just get the points. Get that out of there. Be ahead on points. That puts the opponent on a back foot. They have to catch up. If I'm up by a single point, I don't have to move forward anymore. I don't have to do anything aggressive anymore, which plays into my ranged list. You see how this all works out, how it's well thought out? He brings his melee out. They really can't do much. At most, they can do, I think they also have ranged. Now that I think about it, what he could have done with these guys is just keep them back here. And on round 2, I believe Raptor Riders have ranged, right? So you could shoot, do a point of damage, shoot, do a point of damage. If you want, then charge and then kind of just hang out there. And then on round 3, clash to destroy it. But my point is, your objective needs to be to score points, not to rush forward and just run into a blender. Like he had the ability to destroy this to get points, but he didn't do so. I think he just charged me, right? When I looked at the scenario pack, I looked at how can I win a game? What are the rules that are presented I can win a game? Round 2, I can now start scoring. Let's get medium stands on the objective zones and let's destroy as many markers as I can early on, which is great for spellcasters and it's great for ranged regiments. So as you see, I take a ranged army, not because I just take glee in running people out of the hobby. I mean, that's actually how I felt playing melee against OD and Dweg, is I actually was frustrated. Like, why am I playing this game? There's no point. Either shoot or do melee. I can't melee these armies. So I'm going to go with shooting, and it worked. And I stayed playing the game, right? You have to look at the rule. I take this list to see how I can score, how I can win, instead of just trying to play the way I think Nord should play. Run in with, rabid goo coming out of my mouth, blah, 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 and I just get mowed down because my defense is trash, right? I have to score early on. So here on the end of round 2, as you can see, both his Raptor Riders are gone. I forget, maybe they charged me, maybe they got closer, maybe I got within range. I don't remember. But his Raptor Rider is just gone. So after he lost his Raptor Riders, he then takes his hunting pack and is doing the exact same thing. He's taking his hunting pack and just sending it out to die. These 2 Apexes are not on the board yet. So he has, I think these are blooded. I am up on regiments. I killed 2 of his Raptor Riders. I didn't have to shoot this objective marker because I'm now in a really good board position to shoot this whenever I want. What I did was I took my blooded. I believe my blooded came on and ran up on this objective zone here, then moved off. Why did he move off? This might be round 3. I don't really recall. Might be round 2. Because I got my Fenrir on this objective marker. And Fenrir are a regiment that, guess what Nord players do? They send up the board to die. Wrong. They're a 110-point medium regiment that comes in on round 2, guaranteed with flank. That means on round 2, if you take Fenrir, on most scenarios, you're going to score points, guaranteed. So they run up 14 inches and just sit. And I think there are a couple of scenarios where they could actually run up 14 and reform at the end of their movement to face up and down or north and south, and then get on the point, which I think I do against a player. But you could actually take your Fenrir, put him as the last card, so your opponent doesn't see it coming. When all their cards have activated, then you go. Hopefully your Fenrir are the last one. Flank come on the board, fluid formation, turn on its side. You get on the objective zone, and bam, you get points. Nothing your opponent can do about it, right? So my banner, my Conniger, he left, let me see, I think he left, yeah, see here he is here, and this regiment moved forward, and then he sought new escort into the Stalkers, so he hopped over here. Why did he hop over here? Because I saw the Raptor Riders might be, I'm sorry, I saw the Hunting Pack might be a threat in my flank, and I wanted to be able to re-roll resolves, and there's nothing here on the right side yet. So I wanted his banner of 5 resolve to cover all these regiments, right? So I'm planning for the future rounds. It doesn't matter how much little damage hunting packs might do. If they can squeeze an extra couple points of damage, that might destroy a stand, and then that'll get rid of 5 effective volleying from one of my regiments. So now I have board position. At this point in the game, I control the game, right? I have mediums on my point. He has a medium here. He brought a medium on here, right? On his point, but I'm already up on points. I literally do not have to move anymore this game. I'm done. He now has to spend the next 7 rounds coming to me. Now his skilled opponent would brick up and come to me as 1. A not experienced opponent will not do so. They're going to come in at piecemeal. They don't have the foresight to hold their light regiments, to meet up with their medium regiments and hold them back for the apexes and come in all at once. They just gotta go fast like Sonic the Hedgehog. So the hunting pack finally makes it into my flank, which I thought they would, but I think he did the move charge, which is completely pointless. I mean, they didn't do any damage to me at all. They just moved and then charged, and they don't do impact attacks. So putting this Raptor Riders right here, guess what's going to happen? What's right behind them as a redundant regiment? Bow Chosen right here. So now I can just activate these Bow Chosen first, hopefully evaporate the Raptor Riders to free up the Bow Chosen in the front. So it's redundant, right? I mean, if this was a melee regiment in the back, I could have charged them in the side, done the same thing, but it's good to have redundant regiments overlapping each other, especially for aggressive players, okay? So as you can see here, Raptor Riders are dead. No longer, they don't exist here on the left side anymore. I believe he had brought on, okay, so this is actually 2 regiments of Blooded or whatever they are. They're just stacked one behind another. In this picture, you can see he moved 1 up and he keeps 1 on the point. Why are you moving 1 up? I mean, this regiment here isn't even moved to attack this objective marker. So this player in his mind has this rationalization of how this game is played. I have to go kill. Maybe when you could table your opponents, that might have been a viable strategy. Now it's not. Now you have to outscore early. And when you outscore early, then it forces your opponents to make bad plays to catch up. That's the game of Conquest right now. You score early, get up on at least 1 point, and just let your opponent try to catch you up on points and make bad plays and overextend themselves, right? Instead, he's taking his regiment and coming forward. So this Wadroon player, unfortunately, is kind of new, as I said before, and he didn't understand how the game is currently played. Maybe with his friends, they all rush to each other and just, have fun. That's fine. That's just not how the game is won or lost. My range are now shooting his 2 regiments here to pieces, as you can see. Okay, they're broken and have taken wounds. He has successfully taken a regiment. I think these are another melee unit. I'm not sure. They have shields. They're now getting they're now obscured in the terrain. So my regiments, I cannot draw a line of sight onto them without being obscured. So that's pretty good. That pretty much nullifies shooting. When you're obscured, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to shoot that regiment anymore, which is why I like terrain in the game, the way it works. Many players do not know how to use terrain. They will position badly. This game is still new, okay? Let me be real here. This game is still new. People are going to play a game, not understand how terrain works in conjunction with their regiments. They're going to misplay, place their regiment in a bad spot. I'm going to get an angle off on the side with shooting and then annihilate that regiment. When they get more experience, they'll do things like this, where it's actually impossible for me to not shoot at this unit and get obscured. Many players will take these regiments and stick them on the edge for some reason. Maybe even have the edge of the regiment hang off the side of the terrain, which then allows me to draw a line of sight from one of my stands to this side of your regiment in the center of one of your stands. Boom, you don't get obscuring anymore. I mean, if Parabellum wants to fix obscuring, they have all these weird ideas. Apparently they had a powwow after the tournament that I wasn't a part of. I was just kind of hanging out to the side. I'm one of those loner losers, those emo guys. How could this happen to me? I'm just kind of hanging out to the side, waiting to be invited to things. I didn't know if it was a Vanguard meeting. I didn't know if it was an employee meeting, or they just want to talk to the winners. So I wasn't part of it. But apparently they spent 2 hours talking about terrain and obscuring, and a real simple fix is that you make obscuring a stand-by-stand check. I mean, it's really that easy. You also make, when you're checking for range, right now when you check for volleying, you only do it on one stand for line of sight. And then when you check each stand for effective range or for just barrage range, you can pick any point on the front of the stand to any point on the front of an opposing stand. Real simple fix is you check obscuration, you check obstruction, you check all those things on a stand-by-stand basis. And it's, once again, back to how it was, center of the stand to center of the stand. So you can stop this corner of the stand right here to the corner of a stand right here, just out of terrain, and I don't get obscuring. Make it center to center and make the check stand by stand. It's going to take like 4 sentences to stick under the obscuring rule in terrain, and then another sentence or a rework of a sentence under volleying that you check range for center of a stand on a stand-by-stand basis. I mean, there you go, Parabellum, that's a fix. I mean, I gave you guys a fix. I'm gonna get this later on. I gave them on their Discord a fix for how warlords operate on the battlefield with their supremacies. Some people on the Discord laughed at me, ha ha ha. And then 2 months later, a month later, I go to a tournament, and guess what? People don't know how warlords and their supremacies work. It's going to be really important later on in the game, which I'm going to talk about very candidly, okay? I know there's one rules writer, Leandros, for the game, as far as I know. He may or may not like input. I don't know the guy. I don't know anything about him, right? He seems to have an issue with me on the Discord. Just accept criticism, accept critiques, and just add sentences to the PDFs. This is a company that advertises their game as an online game. The cards are online, the regiments are online, everything's online, it's free, it's online. It takes 10 minutes to update a PDF and just upload it. I know you print books, that's how you make money. There's an issue that you don't want your books to, that's another discussion altogether. 40K has the same issue too, right? So you dig yourself into a hole. Simple way out of the hole is you print the books, great, you're gonna get errated. D&D books in the 80s got errated, right? And you had to like find the White Dwarf or the Dungeon magazine to like then take a sticky note and fix it. It's not, hobbyists have no issue with this stuff. And if they do it first, they learn how to deal with erratas, right? That's not a problem. It's online. Just update the rules in the PDF every Friday, once a week on a Friday. So players know this consistent habitual schedule. Friday at 8 o'clock Greece time or 1100 Greece time, whatever you weird Europeans use for time, right? We know it gets updated. Bam. Range is now, obscuring can be fixed tomorrow. You're an online company. Embrace it. Be the beautiful company I know you can be. Anyway, he places the regiment here pretty good. Brings this apex on the right, brings him forward. The apex on the left is not in the game yet. It's just on the board. So I have position. I bring my Ice Jotnar here. My Ice Jotnar is now in counterattack mode. He may have charged this regiment here forward and failed, or he charged and actually made it to this regiment and did damage to them. I don't know. I forget. Either way, because I had my Ice Jotnar behind as counter, he was now able to move forward. Or maybe my bow chosen here on the left, they angled. As you see, it's kind of hard to see because of my chair. They angled. I think they were firing on the regiment here. Either way, he moved this regiment forward on its own, and my entire force just annihilated it. And at this time, I think I'd already destroyed the marker, so I got the points. At this point of the game, I think round 4 or round 5, I don't know. The game was already done. It's like 1. He brings his apexes in, some long charges, gets them in. I think these Warbred charged my Ice Jotnar and killed it. And then, of course, I shot them up. And then his apexes took the bait of my... These are down to 2 stand. These are bow chosen. So I just moved them up. They're now bait. Charge them. I don't care. I want to keep you away from my lines as possible. So he charges them. He charges these bow chosen on the side. Charges my bow chosen here on the flank. And this whole time, remember, I kept my fast cavalry unit for like 3 rounds. I've just sat here and done nothing. So at this point, I moved my Fenrir up. And they're ready to charge either one in the flank, and that's the next game. I think I charged the one here on the left and then annihilated it, and then we called it game. So it's a counterattack unit. Big takeaway from these games, if you're a new player, you need to just accept that the armies have flavor, the armies have themes, the armies have a certain way to play, but it's under the context of these are the rules for the game. And if you want to win at Conquest, if you want to be a winner, you have to score early if you have fast armies, and then force the opponent to come to you. Dweg, OD, those kind of armies. I mean, nothing's really slow in this game, but they are slower than early scoring armies. Force them to come to you. Very nice opponent. Moving on, next game. My second game was against a Mr. Ian Hunter, and he has Old Dominion. This is his list here. I'm not really going to go over it. I don't even know what half this stuff does. I think the Zilliarch. Oh, yeah, he has that dude. I think this is the guy that like fights first with Quicksilver, maybe. I don't know, but look at all this combat stuff. Bro, did I see this guy in combat? I don't think so. That's the kind of stuff that my Conqueror wants to avoid, if this is the character, right? Anyway, he has a Fallen Divinity and a whole bunch of things. This is the first time I've played against a Fallen Divinity. I've never played against it in the 6 months of playing this game. So in my mind, remember, once again, a rationalization is just an idea in your head without any objectivity, okay? I had rationalized this fear in my head about a fallen divinity from all these battle reports I read or the Discord stuff I'd read about. Oh, it gets so much stronger as things die and cool, blah, blah, blah. So I had this fear going into this game of, oh my gosh, I'm in a tournament and it's the first time I'm fighting against a fallen divinity. This is not going to look good to me. But I took that fear and it was not in tune with the values I was seeking for this tournament. Basically, how do I win a game? And the way you win games in Conquest is you ignore the opponent's army and you score. That's how you win. So no matter how scared I was of this fallen divinity, if I could score early, I would then force the OD player to overextend and make errors when trying to get to my line. And this doesn't even have to be a ranged list. I could be playing Nords with raiders or other light regiments. I stick medium stands in them. I can still score early. Now, instead of shooting, you have a deadly counter-attacking Nord line just sitting there by round 4. By the time you get to me, you could sit there and shoot at me with your range. I don't care. I'm already scoring high, and wiping me off the board is not going to matter. Some armies are built to be better in the later game, and some armies are built to be better in the early game. The way the game is right now is every army has a chance. Early armies, Wadroon, Nords, we can score early. Later armies can then just run in on us and dominate us and hopefully outscore us in the late game. This scenario packet is perfect. It's beautiful. I love it, right? It's great. It actually makes me feel good for playing Nords. Let's get into the game. All right, so this scenario, I believe, is Bulwark. The objectives marker on the left is mine. And see how close this zone is to my reinforcement line? That means I can take pretty much any regiment I want and on round 1 position them to score. I also have an objective marker here in the middle and an enemy objective marker here on the right. The way I have my list is I can come on early with my ranged, get in position and score, take those points, and then force the opponent to play my game. I think this is round 1 or round 2 or round 3. This might be the end of round 2. I have my raiders in position to get within 8 inches to shoot. I have my bow chosen coming close to shoot this zone on the right. And he has just his carries or whatever the ranged ones are. I think they're the Morai or the carries. He has the carries. The Fallen Divinity, I think, is on the board too. Is it a light? I don't remember. Is it on the board? Yeah, apparently it's on the board. It's either on the board now. I already have board presence against him. I have a Blooded, which is a medium stand over here. And I think I had forgot to bring my Conager. Oh no, he comes here on the left. Here he is with the banner. All right, anyway, I'm in position to score. So what's going to happen is over here, as you can see on the right, I have my Blooded on the objective zone and I have my Fenrir running up. They actually came off of flank and reinforcement lines. They went their full 14 in the front and reformed. Why? Because I see his bricks of guys here. And if my Fenrir can either block them from charging or gum them up by charging them on the side, that buys me a round or 2 of shooting before this Ziliarch stand comes in and just annihilates my entire army. It's like nothing I can do about it. I already destroyed this marker here, as you can see. So I got those points and I'm shooting this marker here. I think I did 2 wounds to it. While his 1 regiment of carries is over here shooting this marker. So I'm already up on the points. I'm scoring on this zone here while he cannot score on this zone here. So right now he's playing my game. I'm already up on points. I learned at level 1 the Fallen Divinities a certain way. And then when he got enough tokens to make it level 2, I asked him what are the stats for like a level 2 Fallen Divinity? And then he rattled things off and I'm like, oh, it's like a mountain giant. Oh, it's like half my ice giant. My Ice Jotnar? That's all it is, really? I thought it was like 20 wounds and 50 attacks. I thought it was gonna be like a Bloodthirster from 40k. I thought it was gonna be insane crazy. No, it's not. It's like, oh, I don't really care about it then. I continued just shooting stands. As a matter, actually, I didn't. I think, no, I have board position here, moving my guys up to threaten his stands here, because I want my stalkers to take any charges so my bow chosen can shoot in the back. So the Fallen Divinity makes into combat. I actually fell back here, I think. Did I fall back? No, I don't think I did. My stalkers moved up, I think. Yeah, my stalkers actually moved up, and his Fallen Divinity charged me. I'm shooting the Fallen Divinity. I'm shooting the carries. Both markers are gone, so they're mine. And I'm now on this point scoring. So the game is basically over already, unless he can spend 8 rounds tabling me and getting points. But once again, slow plays happen, or I think the new players might have given up. Like, I just can't win when they probably could have with the Ziliarch unit. I don't remember. I saw he brought his Bone Golems up. so I moved my Fenrir. No, I moved my Fenrir up to charge his regiment on the side. So he brought his bone golems up, thinking, I remember this. He thought that when you come from reinforcement, you can charge. And I explained to him, no, you can't. You need bloodlust to do so. So he was kind of like dejected. So, I didn't mention this. I'm going to say this right now. A bunch of my games in the first couple of rounds, my opponents, whether they were new or not, they made tactical errors based on not knowing what the terrain was or not knowing what rules were. So I graciously let them just reposition their regiments wherever they wanted. Am I sitting here trying to say that to show you guys how good of a player I am? Yes, I am. There are new players in a tournament. I didn't have to let them take anything back, and I let them take things back. So I think when the Bone Golems came up, I asked him, do you want to put him anywhere else? He said no. So maybe in some of these pictures, you might see regiments just shift in the back. I think with the Nords that might happen later on. I play by the rules. I want to win, but I'm also fully understanding that some of these players are new. If they were a little more sweatier, I wouldn't have let them take things back because they should know better, but they don't. So I let them go ahead and just physically reorder their deck or put their regiments wherever they wanted. That was fine. I didn't care. That was fine. Moving on. I think I either shot the Fallen Divinity up. I spelled it to death. I don't know. I think my dogs charged the regiment or he charged the dogs. I don't know what happened here exactly. I held the basically the whole map. I mean, I held the battlefield and I was able to shoot him and the game was pretty much over at this point. We're going to go over to the next game. This is against Mr. Carl. I have his name burned into my retinas, Karl, because he's playing Spires, the triple VCI list, okay? And this is now an issue of inexperience on my end because my local Spires player plays one VCI unit, but he doesn't make the character his warlord. So I did not know about the stacking the 3 cards and then playing them all at once. That was a gotcha to me, like, gotcha, right? I could have asked him at any point, what does your Warlord Supremacy do? But I didn't think a Warlord Supremacy could do that, so I didn't care. This game has taught me now to ask my opponents, what does your Warlord Supremacy do? Because that got me. I was like, wow, they're all activating? Bro, range might not be the issue. Some of these Warlord powers might be the issue. Or I'm just a whiny baby, and now that I know that he could do that, I'll have to position and play better. I'm not just gonna, I think I went on Discord and I sarcastically whined about it, but unlike most people, when a game doesn't go my way or perceived whatever doesn't go my way, I'm not gonna go look for the collective opinion, which are typically wrong anyway. Oh, I need help. I need something nerfed. I need something changed. No, I need to get better. I need to play people like Carl more. He's a very good player. He knows his list. This guy's on point, and I need more players like him. Iron sharpens iron, as the Nords say, and he is definitely iron. I learned a lot from our game with him, right? Anyway, he has his VCI. His VCI both have obscuring because of the character he has to pay for. I've played a game in my local meta where my opponent took a single regiment of VCI with obscuring, and then he had some other character, I don't know Spires that well, where he would stack the cards in a way to heal. Maybe I think Carl did this too for other reasons, but my bow chosen would lose half their shots rounded up. I would do some damage. He would then just heal the VCI back to full by stacking the cards in a specific way, and I just couldn't kill it. So locally, my opponent makes a defensive VCI list. Carl makes an offensive VCI list, and honestly, the defensive one is infinitely harder to deal with than the offensive one. For a ranged player, context is important. For a ranged player. Don't know about melee players. I don't even know what melee is in this game. Melee is for Dweg and OD. I don't care about melee, right? Let's go on with the game. He has his VCI all set up. He's setting them up in terrain. See how he has it set up here in this terrain? Now, this terrain was obstructing. It was not obscuring. It is not any kind of like hindering shots. So once he's on top of the rocks, he can be shot and be shot at, right? But he placed his regiment perfectly on that terrain where the center of the sides are in the terrain. So if this was obscuring terrain, he would get obscuring for it. So this is actually great positioning. And the other regiments don't care. We now start the shooting game. I think on round 2 or round 3, probably round 3, he killed 2 of my bow chosen regiments, just annihilated them. They're gone. They're just gone. Done. Like he just shot them up. Gone. See ya. Which is perfectly fine. At this point in the game, I have what I call gamer face. That's when you let your emotions take hold and you feel bad. Most gamers go through this, and I have coined it gamer face because you can see it in the face of your opponent. Your opponent's all happy, making jokes. You do a thing to them, and all of a sudden they stop making jokes and they're quiet. They don't know what to do. That's gamer face. I got gamer face for a round. I was like, really? You're gonna triple draw 3 cards on me? Like, I didn't know this thing was a thing. Kill 2 of my stands of Bow Chosen. They're just gone. Bro, really? I sat there, put my emotions aside, and thought, emotions are not tools of cognition. That's not how you make decisions in life. Use reason. I have to score to win. Let's get back to scoring. I offered my stalkers as bait. They can't score. Just run up and get shot. My dogs are also a little bait here. Shoot my dogs. Rather you shoot my dogs than my Bow Chosen. So I'm trying to offer him bait. I forget what happens here exactly. On the left flank, I'm able to whittle down a regiment here. Oh, I remember what happened. I wanted to charge this regiment of Vanguard on my turn, or during this Bow Chosen's activation. I needed anything but a 1. Guess what I got? A 1. If I would have gotten that charge off, the game would have been different. And that's true for any choice that goes the opposite way than you thought it would go. So it's not really irrelevant, but it was a very poignant part of the game where I make that charge, and it didn't happen. Anyway, on the right, we're now having this kerfluffle. I know that once regiments get into engagement, it becomes a traffic jam. And he has this giant regiment of dudes on the right that if I jam up his Vanguard clone infiltrators or whatever, the VCIs, they're going to have issues of moving around. They can't wheel. They can't do anything. It's just a brick, right? Unfortunately, my opponent didn't know that. Mr. Carl thought that you can take this regiment of veteran clone, whatever the melee version of these guys are. I had moved my ice Jotnar here. He charged right in here. You can see it next picture. But he charged right here. And then he attempted to charge my ice Jotnar this way, if you see my mouse, right? But he couldn't because this regiment is engaged. He thought that you could go through engaged friendly regiments. I told him no, he couldn't. So I had to show him the rule, and then he realized he couldn't. Also, he then tried to charge, I believe, my Bow Chosen. He couldn't because he has to wheel first and then charge forward. He could not wheel to clear this corner to charge my Bow Chosen, so they were also not chargeable. So the only thing I had left to do was attempt a move charge against my guys back here, which I think he did, and then they just failed and kind of like hung out here in the middle, which, yeah, here they are in the middle, right? My Jotnar charged these VCI and killed them. Stupid me, that was a big mistake. You notice here, you see this objective zone? There is no objective zone poking out here. What I should have done was just kept my Ice Jotnar in the back to countercharge his medium brick. I did not have to charge them into his VCI, but I charged them into his VCI. Or maybe save my Ice Jotnar for the last activation, so when he kills my dogs, I can then charge in the flank and score on that. I had options, but I made a mistake. It turns out, though, he actually did not kill the dogs. Do you know why? See my banner here? I was actually within 12 inches. It may not look like it, but I was actually within 12 inches from corner to corner. I was just in 12 inches. And then my dogs' resolves were a 5. I'm sorry, they were a 4. I was at 1 stand less here. They're at a 4. Instead of a resolve of 2, they were a 4. My dogs actually survived. They were able, see this regiment of VCI in the back? My single dog was able to rally, charge, hold them up, and then kill them in melee. Crazy, right? What a banner can do to regiments that have no resolve, all of a sudden a resolve of 4 or 5, it's amazing. He's got good positioning here. I now have a dog annoying him in the back, but unfortunately my Ice Giant is now about to get doo-dooed on. He charged my Ice Giant, I think, but here was the problem. He charged, could not kill my Ice Giant, but look at that. I'm not on the marker. He is, and these are all medium. So I could sit here and shoot him all I want. You know what shooting does? Kills a stand. Range broken, her. No, not really. I kill a stand, and because he has medium guys on the marker, he's now outscoring me. My dogs here, I think he reformed and charged my dogs on the side, which was smart of him. I don't know what his intentions were, but he's keeping my medium dog from getting on that and helping to maybe contest. So this is perfectly played on his part here, right? Then he finally brought his brutes in, his archers in the back. He had more stuff coming in. His brutes killed my ice boy. He kept me from scoring early on, but here's the thing. I think the game ended on round 6. So my army was wiped off the board. All he had left was these bow guys in the back and 3 stands of this medium regiment here. So it was a bloody fight, and it came down to a couple of regiments, but hard fought game. So the game came down to my ignorance of what my opponent's Supremacy does. I've learned now to always ask questions, and some tactical errors that I made on my part. Carl's a great opponent. It was a really good game. We had a little kerfluffle where he was trying to rotate a regiment for a charge or a better angle, but he was doing the floaty thing where when you rotate the center of the regiment, it's supposed to stay still, but as he was rotating it, the center would move. And we spent 5 minutes of the game where he was trying to rotate this regiment, moving it forward. I'm like, no, put it back, please. Over here. Rotating it. No, it's moving again. Until he finally stopped moving the center of that regiment forward. It was actually rotated. So I wasn't going to let that fly. I'm like, nope. Besides that little kerfluffle at the start, after that, the game was smooth sailing, was beautiful. Wonderful opponent. Good job, Carl. My second opponent did not bring a list. Dirty Nord player, Mr. Alex. People should be docked for not following tournament rules. Just how it is. Either you follow the rules or you don't. If TOs allow players to not follow the rules, they're effectively telling everybody out there watching this video, everybody that plays Conquest, show up to tournaments, do whatever you want. Rules don't matter, right? It's one or the other. Either you follow the rules or you don't. After game one, he should have been docked like a couple of points for not having a list. Then he could have said, can I borrow someone's phone? I would have lent him his phone to type in his army list, copy and paste it, put in Longshanks. There, done. You're now part of it, right? Good standard to have. Dock players, and then on round two, trust me, they're all going to have their lists on time, right? This was a game where we played on melee, and before each game, I would look at the physical layout and I would think, how can I score early? So this zone is closer to my reinforcement line than the other two zones. How am I going to do this? So I have tricks to get to these zones early on, right? This was one of those games where me and my opponent talked about terrain rules beforehand, right? After the game started, there was a issue with how the terrain functioned. So I allowed my opponent to reposition his regiments on the back of the board to suit him better. It was early on. I came to a tournament. I want to face the best that my opponents can offer me. I don't want to sit here and take advantage of, you didn't know what terrain did. Oh, well, now you're there. It's round one or round two. So he moved his regiments around and we were happy with the results. I got my blooded on this objective zone on the right. My blooded is a medium stand. So now I'm scoring this zone here. His raiders are light, so he cannot score this. He could contest it, but because I think I had my blooded and another one of my stands tip on the zone, I got it. Or I think maybe he contested it. I forget. Either way, I'm threatening it. In the center, I got my dogs on this zone and I was scoring it. It was threatening enough that he was shooting at my dogs. As you can see, I'm missing a stand and not my bow chosen. So he had some target priority issues going on here. This was a smart choice because if he would have killed one more of my dogs, they wouldn't have been able to have scored. And if they already activated, I could not rally them to score the zone. As you can see, my dice here is a 3. So he was 1 wound away from making this regiment not scoring. So that was really close. I did seek escort to get my medium stand Conager from my bow chosen stand onto the raiders. Then the raiders activated, reformed, and my Conager was able to swing and then touch this zone here. As you see, I'm at an angle. That's a good way to score, is using medium stands on the end of regiments to reform and swing them onto a zone. And then you get us scoring there. I am now outscoring him. I also know that he has 3 giants in his list. My cat's gonna start meowing, just get used to it. His list is gonna mash me in the pooper if I don't score early. I already know his list is gonna just BTFO me out. I know, once again, people just rationally think, oh, range is overpowered. This is another game where if my opponent went the full 10 rounds, I believe, he would have mashed me into the pooper, but we went to time. And my next opponent is another example of mashing me in the pooper, but we'll get to that. Later on in the game, he does the Shaman Vanguard issue. Well, here is now what I'm going to talk about. Warlords and Supremacies and when they can be used. And this is an issue I had in my Discord. I talked about this months ago, and rules issues should never in a game, this is a principle, should never be subjectively answered in an email or by Leandros or by a rules creator. No, it's not how a game works. You have a single source, a Bible, an Atlas Shrugged, as they say, a single source where you go to, where everyone can be on an equal footing. Because what happened here? He had a shaman off the board trying to give his guy Vanguard. I used to play the shaman like that because a shaman does not say it has to be on the battlefield. And it also says it's always active. So if you are a player and you read this, other warlords have this model has to be on the battlefield. Shaman does not, but it also has this is also active. Well, Vanguard is an ability that you want to give to regiments who are off the table. It makes sense intent-wise. You should never play a game by intent, though. It makes sense that since his ability is always active, like when me and my opponent shake hands and the game starts, it's now active. It's always active. It's just what the sentence says. It's now active. So now I can take 2 regiments that are in reinforcements and give them Vanguard, whether he's on the board or not. But I knew this was an issue because I used to do that until I ran into someone on the board saying that's not how that guy works. So I knew intent-wise, this is not how this warlord works. Was that ever updated for the shaman like a month ago? No. I even gave a free, didn't have to pay me. Here are 3 sentences for all warlords. This warlord supremacy works while this warlord is in reinforcement. This warlord supremacy works only when it's in the battlefield. Or this warlord supremacy works when both in reinforcements and on the battlefield. That's the first sentence of every supremacy, every single one. Cut and paste, that's the standard. There's no confusion, real simple. Was that added to the PDF? No. The reason why I'm kind of mad at this is because it's causal. If players don't understand how the rules work, and you're an online company where rules can be updated online like that, it should have been fixed a month ago. Causally, law of causality. When players are confused here, online, when they appear in person at a tournament from different regions of the world and they all play different ways, like I played against Carl, apparently in his group, you can charge over engaged friendly regiments. Later on, I'm going to talk about Sarah and how she thinks volleying plays. When people cannot read objective, clear rules and their group adopts how the game is played, when you congregate to a tournament, when you have different cultures getting together and there is no American Constitution aligning all these different views together so they can live peaceably, when the Constitution, when the rule book is a mess, people are then going to start enforcing their emotions or their own subjective views on how things should be, and then you have a problem, right? My cat's going to keep meowing. It is what it is, right? All Vikings have cats. It's just how we are, right? We presented screenshots of the same issue, yes and no, by authoritative sources, subjective authoritative sources. That's what it was. Wasn't the terrain. It was the supremacy issue. He had deployed certain regiments in a certain way, thinking they can get Vanguard, and I said they couldn't. So then we called the TO over. The TO didn't know. So the TO sent Leandros a text and a phone. That's unprofessional. Should not happen in a tournament. 0. No. Imagine playing like in a GW and the judge is like, I don't know. Let me text the CEO to find out how things go. No, that's just unprofessional. This is a simple fix. Am I mad about this? Yes. Because imagine being a player who spent $1,000 to fly, to be proud of a Parabellum tournament, and in your group you play the model a certain way when this could have been cleared up months ago, just to find out it does not play that way. If that guy was me, dude, I'd be effing pissed. I would have so much contempt for Parabellum if that happened to me. People in my area know how I'm getting mad right now, and I'm rationalizing myself in that predicament because I'm putting myself in that guy's heart, in his soul, coming to a tournament and then realizing this could have been effing fixed a month ago and it wasn't. I'm just see how mad I'm getting right now? Calm down, relax. Poor dude, all right? Poor dude, right? Update the PDF, fix the rules, make them clear, okay? When players spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in your product, and it's a game that has a win-loss condition to it, where you play to win and you play to lose, there are rules to the game. Make sure the rules are clear. I'll stop right now, otherwise I'm going to rant about an hour and then get into more disfavor with the people of Parabellum, which actually I don't really give a crap about. I'm not a Vanguard. I'll go into a little bit. I'm not in a circle jerk in an echo chamber where people are incentivized to say yes, because the bosses create that environment of yes men. I'm not a Vanguard. I'm not part of that group. I don't do that, right? I want the game to succeed. I am selfish, 100% selfish. It's the only moral way a person can be. I want the game to succeed. I want my army to play it in a very clear, concise way. I want to enjoy the game. And it's hard to enjoy when you spend money on models that don't work the way you think they're going to work. Sometimes it's the company's fault. Sometimes it's the player's fault. It's ignorance either on the company's side or the player's side, right? And player including me. Once again, last game I was ignorant on the triple activation and I lost the game because of it. 100% my fault, and I learned to be better, right? Hopefully Parabellum watches this, puts their emotions aside, which in 1.5 in that Discord, good lord, the people in Parabellum would just post viciously with their emotions. I'm glad they stopped doing that. They're now a company. You're professional. You're a company. Stop posting on that Discord like you're my friend. You're nobody's friend on there. You're not the Vanguard's friend. You're not my friend. You're a company that's selling me a product. You're professional. Stop. Update your rules. Make them clear. The players will be objectively happy when the models they pay money for. See, I'm still going off on this because, oh my God, I love this game. And this poor player. I just feel so bad for him. Anyway. I'm scoring early. He's now forced to charge into me. He brings his Giants on. He brings his Valkyrie. I think he wants to bring his Valkyrie to contest this marker here because my dogs are scoring on these markers constantly, right? But so he has this pressure that he has to stop me from scoring. So I bring my my Stalker regiment here to block his Valkyries. So his Valkyries are fighting me, but they're also on his marker, so they're scoring. But then he brings his Valkyries to me, I think. And he's now, because his medium regiment is off scoring, he now has to bring his Siege Otnar onto this. And his Siege Otnar has to stay here. Because back here, this is all light. His Shaman and Raiders, they're all light. So now he has to just keep this model back here to score. It can't come forward. See how powerful it is if you plan your army to score early is against your opponent. So far against all my opponents, I scored early. I was able to hold the field, except for the one big mistake I made against Carl. Once again, that's all my fault, not his. Now he's forced to make mistakes, make charges, and Mr. Alex here started charging forward, making mistakes, making issues. And I think the game went to time here, but I was about to charge my Ice Jotnar into the side of his Ice Jotnar and still keep the back of my stand on the tip of this so I can score one more round of scoring. All my movement, all of it is around scoring. How can I maximize scoring? Scoring. Once you've mastered that, then you can master other things. One step at a time. And you need to learn how to master positioning your medium stands to score early, score often, and force your opponent to make mistakes. Right? This is now game 5 against Sarah and her Spires. Rolo here, which is the opponent I play. Guess what? No list. I can't show you guys the list. I don't even know what was in it. And I don't know Spire Regiment's name, so you're going to be really pissed off at me during the next section. Nothing I can do about it. This scenario is Maelstrom. And I won't go too much into this, but there were only 3 zones. The center zone gives you more points at the beginning and the end of the game. And the side zones give you more points in the middle of the game, okay? I knew it was important for me to score early on the center and not worry about the sides too much. This is where after round 2, I made it far up the board. Don't think I scored. This is round 1, actually. On round 2, I was able to score on the left side. So what I did was I brought my dogs in from the side and then they fluid reformed to grab this objective. And here in the center, my Conager is here. He didn't have to seek new escort. My Conager moved up and was able to touch the objective zone in the center. And then my bowmen, or my stalkers, are now blocking my Conager from being charged, right? My Blooded is on the right side. I kind of figured that this side on the right side might have been lost or something. I don't remember exactly. So I take the Blooded and stick him here in the center to hold this zone because I wanted my banner in the back because I knew her list was mostly melee and I would need my 5 resolve bubble in the back to cover as much as I could. So my Blooded took the duties of scoring while my Conager hopped in the back and is now just chilling. Oh, this was another issue. You see this regiment with the old snake lady and I don't know, the avatar, bodyguard, whatever they are. She thought that being obstructed worked if you were in the zone. So you see how her stands are kind of hard to see. She has this regiment of light dudes over here. Then she brought on her medium with her warlord, I guess. I don't know. Right in front of them. But they were just overlapping this zone. Then during my turn, I was going to shoot at them and she said they're obstructed. I'm like, no, they're not. Now you're on the zonal terrain. You can be seen and you can be seen. It's reciprocal. It's like in theater. If the audience can see you, you can see the audience. So if you're on the zone to see me, to charge me, guess what? I can see you to shoot you. So I let her take the regiment and move them back behind the zone and then kind of push this regiment here back. I let her reposition. Her play group, though, played shooting in a way that it still boggles my mind. Maybe this was a way they did it in testing 2 years ago. I don't know. I'm ignorant on this part. But she thought each stand, this was that classic, each stand has its own 45-degree line of sight. So maybe this stand here on the left, you would measure 45 degrees to see a regiment to shoot. Then the next stand would have to measure a line of sight 45 degrees. And I told her that's not how that is. And she's like, well, that's how my play group plays it. I'm like, well, that's not in the rules. I educated her on how shooting line of sight works. She was like, cool. Then we moved on from that, right? That's user error because I looked at the rules. The rules are very clear on how volleying works. I think most people, they just read a rule once, like 5 months ago, and they just assume that's how it is. And that kind of like permeates throughout a group and people just accept it collectively. And collective wisdom is no wisdom. So if you are playing in a group and you're relying on how other people tell you what the rules are, stop. Take 10 minutes, pick a chapter, read it. Tomorrow, take 10 minutes, pick a chapter and read it. You have to educate yourself on how these things work, right? All knowledge is contextual and all knowledge is objective and individual. I knew this game I would have lost, but I was glad she told me she was going to slow play it. Not on purpose, that's just how she plays. Guess what happens in this game? She would have tabled me easily. I know the ranged meta is the boogeyman, but my last game, I nearly got tabled, but it went to time. And this game, I definitely would have got tabled, but it went to time, okay? So against newer players, my first two opponent, they didn't know what they were doing. I basically wiped the floor with. But against competent players that understand more of the game, a ranged army doesn't really do much. Against competent players, like the winner, the Vanguard who won, I forget his name, with the city-states. I mean, he has no range. He just kind of ran through everybody. And his army is a direct counter to mine, which is, once again, perfectly fine. I don't have an issue with range in this game. It's the option to raise the ceiling for certain armies to counter other armies that may have a lower ceiling of skill that anyone could pilot and then mash you into the ground, you know? OD and Dweg. But anyway, and now those armies have to deal with my range. I had to warp my game plan to beat them. Now they have to do the same to me. Tit for tat, right? It's just how it is. So I've no sympathy for people that cry range is too powerful. It's not. And this boogeyman that range is going to scare new players. Never seen in my area new players come in, and I'm not going to take an all range list. It's the same for any game. I know an all range list is strong against new players. So why would I take that to bring new players into the game? If you ever come across someone on Discord saying new players got shied away because of ranged, the question you should be asking, who took ranged and why did they scare a new player off? It's like playing basketball and saying, here's your first game, I'm bringing Michael Jordan in here, or I'm bringing Shaquille O'Neal in here. Why did you bring him into the team? It's your fault. Not the player's fault, not the army's fault, it's your fault for doing that. Or in the UCF, oh, you're a new MMA fighter? You're fighting 150 pounds? Well, here comes Brock Lesnar. First match. I don't want to fight anymore. Well, the UCF should be set in a way where that doesn't happen, and players either police themselves up and not take. The same goes for Dweg and OD. If you, this is true for any game. I remember my very first game of Warhammer Fantasy back in 2005. The very first player I ever played, Eric, this POS. He took like an all demons list or something. He specifically took that list and tabled me like on turn 2. I stopped playing fantasy. Is that the list's fault? No, that's his fault. That was Eric's fault for doing so. I remember this 15 years later. What a POS. This is user error. You can take any list as an expert and flip new people out of the game. Does not have to be ranged. It could be just Dweg magic. It could be healing. It could be Spire, triple card activation. It could be a Wadroon chant charge across the board, 5 apexes. Anyone can do this with any list. And if you are the recipient of range and don't like it, tell your opponent stop doing it or get better. I want me to tell you, one or the other. Stop forcing a company to meld around your unskilled abilities. Get better. Ranged is legitimate. It's fine. Dweg, as they are, they're legitimate, they're fine. I would not want to remove Spire's ability for that triple activation Vanguard. That's a tool they have. Dweg, leave them alone. Don't nerf them. Nords, they might need some buffs. Range, no, range is fine. The reason why I play range is because the rest of our units just make raiders a little better. Make trolls usable again. I don't know who the brain genius was that decided to take a regiment that people want to spend money on. Now they don't want to spend money on it. I don't know, why do gaming companies do this? It's because they balance on emotions. Whoever balances these things, it's strictly on emotions. They play like 3 games and make a call on it, right? That's not how you balance things in the game. The sample size of like your group, your playtest group, should not be because we don't like a thing. No. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. Very opinionated, right? Because I could do that. All right. Anyway, Sarah, she brings on her ranged people. No, they're melee, I think, right? They're already having issues. Let's move on. They charge into me. I'm now forcing Sarah to play my game because I'm outscoring her. Problem I make is this. I actually go too far forward. My regiments, I start moving them too far forward and it becomes a problem. I overextended. I fell for that trap. So you see my dogs here on the left and you see them now in melee against stands of those, whatever they are, initiates. I don't know. Those light regiments that came on the board turn 1 and a block of this big ass snake lady and I guess 3 of her brutes. She had to reform to get around this terrain or something like that. It was a charging issue. She had to reform. That's what it was. She had to reform because of charges. But my dogs survived their impacts and clashes. Why? My banner man is right here, my Conager, resolve of 5. It held them up for 1 round. On the right side, I think I got too bloodlusty. I charged her ranged here or melee here. I think they're melee. And then the game did go to time. And I know you may not, you may see this. I don't think I took a picture after this. Oh yeah, there's like 3 more rounds I didn't take, something like that. Yeah, we're on round 4 here. We scored round 4, I think one more round. I mean, these brute regiments here pretty much wiped everything out. They just charged in. She was coming in from the left. The dogs eventually died. The abomination charged in. I mean, I was done. I was done for. Nothing I could do. I was gonna be tabled. And then she could spend the last 2 or 3 rounds just scoring. This was me getting into optimal position for maximum range shooting, and I still got tabled. Am I gonna say nerf Spire brutes? No. She performed pretty well. Kicked my butt. Last game of the tournament against Ramus. Guess what, Ramus? Another Nord with no list. Come on. Dock you 20 points. Bad dog. Bad Fenrir. Stop this. TOs in the future. Enforce this, please. Stop. Other people can skirt the rules and I can't. It's like political favoritism. It's not good. Should not be in an objective tournament scene where judges are impartial. You follow the rules or you don't. This was scenario. Grind them down. Cool. He had 2 stands, 2 regiments of 5 bow chosen and 2 giants, a block of Huskarls. So he had mix of melee and ranged. So was his army ranged focus? No, it was a mix. My army was clearly ranged focus. That was the theme of my army. I knew early on he has raiders and a shaman. They're all light. He has bow chosen out. They're all light. Is he gonna score early? No. You know what my list is designed to do? Score early. So at the end of round 1, this is how it looks. We bring everything on the board. We run up, Vanguard, run up. Round 2, guess what? I'm able to move my Conager and my Blooded, it's kind of hard to see over here, onto regiments that are on the rear circles. So I have scored 2 zones. He has scored 1. So now I have 6 points. It's 2 plus 2 plus holding 2 or more is 2, I think. And he has 2. Say it with me, folks. He now has to play my game. I can sit here and do nothing. And that's not good for ranged armies. With ranged regiments, that's not good. Because guess what we did for 4 rounds? We both measured 22 inches because that's a bow chosen's move plus volley. We're both a couple of centimeters outside 22 inches. Neither of us was going to commit. Unfortunately for him, I was up on points. I didn't have to move a single regiment the whole game. It was up to him to play my game. I got rewarded for planning before the tournament how to score early and how to move my regiments on the board to score early. And that's what I did every game, score early. So what people may think is, holy moly, that is a ranged army. Diego was the only guy in the whole tournament that actually brought a ranged focused army. True. It's not why I won. I won because of scoring. I could have done this easily with raiders, with medium stands, and then just have blocks of ogres, blocks of mountain giants ready to flank attack you with cleave 2 into your side. So scoring is how you win in this game. Not melee, not ranged. Scoring is how you win. How you do that, your army will dictate it, and you have to kind of conform around that. Guess what all these pictures are going to look like? Another round. He finally moved up. I think it was like round 5 we finally moved into each other. Since I had more scoring regiments than him, he has his Ice Jotnar here. His Hammer Jotnar has to be used as a scoring regiment. It can't come forward. See the issue here, folks? My Ice Jotnar is in a counterattack position. In case he came to me, I could move the Ice Jotnar to counterattack into him or move it as a scoring regiment. And guess what? My Fenrir just sat here the whole game, waiting for a point where they can just be, because I have less, I had more cards than him, the Fenrir could always be the last card in a deck. At any round I wanted to, they could move onto the center objective and score me 2 extra points. And he knew that. They also count as a countercharge. That's how Nords play, whether you're ranged or not. You're a countercharge army. You have to set up countercharges. That's the army. That's how it plays. Ranged or not. That's how you roll, bro. And if your opponent has overwhelmingly more range than your Nords, you got to spend the first couple of rounds to brick your army up and then move as one and get up in there. That's just how you roll, bro. He finally moves this regiment forward, I believe, to shoot, and he kills a stand, or kills 2 stands, I don't know. Once again, bow chosen range should not be feared when you're bricked up like this. If I were presenting my army like my previous opponents, 1 regiment at a time, you would think, wow, range is broken. No, you just don't know how to play the game. You don't know what you're doing. When I brick my guys up here, if these were all melee and he had 2 stands of bow chosen, know what I would do? Everything would go forward. He'd shoot a bunch of guys, kill a couple of stands, maybe kill a regiment. Guess what? In my next round, everything is charging and his army is dead. This game essentially presents itself as 1 charge away from losing the game, okay? You're always 1 charge away from getting BTFO'd out of the game. So he finally realized Diego's up on points. I have to move forward. He moved forward, meaning he cannot take aim and volley. So he's hitting me on 3s. I can now just take aim and volley. I don't have to move. So he is now playing on my clock. See, he did fire, killed 2 stands. So yeah, that's what he did. Wow. Whoop-de-doo. 500 points to kill 2 stands. Whatever. Now I'm going to go ahead and start peppering you. And at this point, my 1 stand that's alone, I just moved it forward. Why? And it's broken. So when I activate it first, I'll unbreak it and charge a 5 regiment bow chosen stand. Stop them from shooting. I'm investing in the value of this regiment to lock up another ranged regiment. Real simple. The dogs are the same way. He finally moved his regiment up. You know what I do with my dogs? I got my 3 stands on it. It's now mine. I scored. He now has to deal with a 110-point dog unit. This is now 700 points worth of bow chosen. They have to deal with a single broken stand and 3 dogs. That, if you guys put yourself in the shoes of a ranged army, this throws off your entire plan. Because your entire plan is weight of fire into isolated regiments to kill them. But once your opponent does this, okay, shoot these 2 stupid units. They're just going to charge you and lock you up. Now you're not shooting at mine. And let's, once again, if these were trolls or huskarls, he still has to deal with these stupid units blocking them. So it lets my melee units get up there. And as anyone knows, once melee get into contact with slingers or VCI or bow chosen, the game's over. It's done. They're dead. Get them out of there. Coincidentally, I think that bow chosen should be evasion 1. VCI, these were ranged units. Just give them evasion of 1 and no way to increase it. I know vulvas can increase the army's evasion by 1. I have an issue with evasion in this game. Get it out of this game. It should be rare. Stop. Why do Minotaurs have evasion 1? Stop. If you're why do 100 Kingdom range units have evasion 2? Get them out of there. If you are a ranged unit, evasion 1, done. No defense. Get that crap out of there. Let me tell you. And if you have defense, get evasion out of there. Stop with this evasion 2. Evasion 2 is so good. Stop with it. Just get it out of there. It'll fix so many issues. If you want to balance a range, take obscuring stand by stand and just get rid of all this evasion. Just get rid of it. Slingers are the best range unit in the game, and they have evasion 1. Now, they're the best unit in the game because of their range, and they force resolve checks. Anyway, enough ranting about that. Ranged aside, I put my opponent in a position where he's kind of screwed. So let's move on. He did shoot. I did tie his guys up. See his giants here? How both his giants are gone. And there's my Ice Jotnar. He charged the Ice Jotnar into my scoring stalkers here with my blooded medium stand. Then I was able to shoot and countercharge him. His Sea Jotnar came forward to threaten me. My Ice Jotnar, I think, charged his Sea Jotnar and killed it. My dogs and my regiment here, my 1 stand, charged into his bow chosen to lock them up from shooting. So he was hurting. I think he either shot and killed my Ice Giant or my Ice Giant charged his bows, and then he was able to move around and charge my Ice Giant here. I think that's what happened, why he's like this, and killed my Ice Giant. Game was pretty much over at that point right here. That's my picture right here. Those are my dudes. My little banner before it broke during the game. My army is set up to score early, and the last half of the rounds, I don't care. Nords die. That's how the army should be. It's like a burn deck in Magic. I like the way the army plays. I like the way it is. It's not because it's ranged, because I know what I'm doing when it comes to scoring. Most of my opponents did not. Hopefully, you guys had fun watching. Let me know in the comments down below what you agree or disagree with. I'm very opinionated, not because I feel that everyone must agree with my opinions. No, because objectively, I love this game and I want it to succeed. And yes, I know what's best for a tournament-based game based on 20 plus years of playing these games. You can see so many companies fail at this crap. 40K did not get big because of its tournament play. It got big because of 30 years of lore and the novels it writes. Conquest is still new, and if it's dipping its toes this early into organized tournament play, which it is, you guys need to get your act straight. Fix the rules right now after you watch this video. Stop doing what you're doing. Do this. Update the PDFs. Stop waiting. Some players are going to complain, oh, you guys update the rules too often. That's not a problem. That's a good thing. That's an absolute good thing to have. So the worst feeling you have in the world is investing money into models because you think they work one way, and then they get nerfed because people feel they should work a different way without any like real actual testing. And or the base rules are so ambiguous that when you think a rule plays a certain way and you show up to a tournament and it doesn't, that's 100% the fault of Parabellum and the rules writers and the testers. Absolutely. And if the testers ever get into a position where they think that they should say something about it and they don't, that's because you're in an echo chamber. And that echo chamber is set by the person in charge of that community. It's the fact. That's true for any business, any government, any friend group. Vanguards need to sack up and say, this is not working a certain way. Ooh, so what? You're not Vanguard anymore. Who cares? Vanguard doesn't mean you know the rules any better than like me. Most of you guys don't. It just means you don't get like what, 30, 40 bucks worth of free product every month. You know, who cares? Have a little integrity, speak up. Because if you love the game, you need to speak up to change how things are done. And a game is a business. There's no dichotomy between a business and its owner. The owner is the business. And if the owner is not going to change his or her views on how something is run and it's making things worse, that's not on you. But if you're complacent in what the business owner or the manager or whoever is in charge of a certain aspect of a business is doing, and it's not good for the thing that you love, you're at fault for it. You're complacent to it. That's how it is. So love me or like me, I don't care. I'm here to love the game and make it better. So I don't care if every employee in Parabellum hates me. I don't care if Vanguards don't like me. Don't care. Anything I've ever said on that Discord was honest. Like the only honest person on that Discord. It was always to help the game get better. And if people within the company can't keep their emotions in check, that's their problem, not mine. If you like what I've done, if you want more videos like this, subscribe.